Al Tifrosh, hey Joe, hey David, didn't realize you were there. First thing he said, Al Tifrosh Minat Tzibur, don't separate yourself from the community. This is something that we spoke about last week, what this means, and the significance of this concept. But here we're going to go a little bit further, and he says a little bit of a something that actually I had planned on getting into last week, but a fascinating line. I find it a fascinating line. Al ta'amin ba'atzmacha adjei moisach. What's the worst thing you could tell somebody is don't trust yourself. Don't believe in yourself. What does he say over here? Don't believe in yourself until the day you die. When you die, you can start believing in yourself. Isn't that and this is Hillel. Hillel was the greatest of the great, considered one of the greatest rabbis in all of Jewish history. As a matter of fact, he's the most quoted rabbi in all of Pirkei, all of ethics of our fathers. His school is probably the most quoted school in the Mishna. And here he is, what he says, look at the statement. What does he say? Al tamin ba'atzmacha adjei moisach. Do not believe yourself until the day you die. What does this mean? So I'll tell you what I think it means, my understanding of it. Al tamin ba'atzmacha doesn't mean don't have self-belief. It means have self-beliefs. It has don't have self-assurance. Don't say, I'm okay, I'm good. You know, Rabbi, I'm okay, I'm good. Don't worry about me. That type of thing. Don't say that. Al tamin be'atzmacha adjei moischa means never trust yourself to put your guard down. Always have your guard up high. Don't think, I won't mess up. No, everybody can go to walk down the streets and see unclean things, except for me, I'm okay. Don't worry, I've never fallen into the trap. No, there's a famous statement in the Talmud that says there is ein apotropos la'arayos. I think that's the word, which basically means nobody could be a guarantor for people that are promiscuous. You know, there's nobody could say, oh, I can hang out with promiscuous people and I won't get caught into that. I won't get caught into the trap. Don't put yourself in situations that you won't, that you think, oh no, I'm okay, I'm safe, I'm a holy man. Now, the Talmud brings us a really famous story to prove this case, this concept. It tells us the story of Rabbi Yochanan Kohen Gadol. He wasn't referred to as Rabbi Yochanan Kohen Gadol. He was Rabbi Yochanan Kohen Gadol. Yochanan Kohen Gadol. The Talmud has a crazy statement about him. It says, "Shimish b'kahuna l'shmoinim shana or l'soif nasa tzedoki." He was one of the greatest and most pious Kohen Gadols. So much so that the Talmud says that he was the Kohen Gadol for 80 years. Who was he? He was the grandson of Matisyahu Kohen Gadol. Matisyahu in the story of Hanukkah, his grandson becomes the Kohen Gadol. And he's the great Kohen Gadol for 80 years. And L'soif Na'aseh Tzedoki, but at the end of his life, he went rotten and he became a Sadducee. Sadducee is somebody that rebels against the rabbinate and doesn't believe in the oral Torah. Now, I should just tell you on the opposite, when we talk about Yochanan Kohen Gadol, with most opinions say he was not actually the Kohen Gadol for 80 years. He was actually the Kohen Gadol for 40 years. Why does it say 80 years? Because he was 80 years old. And it's as though he had been in that position for 80 years. He was so stable and respected within the position. But at the end of his life, just right at the end, he started to doubt everything and he went sour. It's a fascinating concept, the story of Yochanan ben Kohen Gadol. There's another story of a guy by the name of Elazar ben Dordaya. Elazar ben Dordaya was known as a famous thief and a very wicked person. And one day, another wicked lady says to him, you think I may be wicked, but you are on a totally much greater level of wickedness. And Elazar ben Dodaya was so stressed and so pained by it that he cried himself, and he was so bitter by realizing that this woman who was so wicked, he was even more wicked than her. And he cried himself and eventually cried out of remorse and pain of his state. And the Talmud tells us that Elazar ben Dodaya died, and the bas kol, a heavenly voice, came down and says that Elazar ben Dodaya died as a saint. He sinned his whole life, but his status, his mindset, where he was at the end of his life, he was not possible to sin again. And therefore he had repented for everything that he'd done wrong. And then it says somewhere else that Rabbi Elazar ben Dodaya was a reincarnation of Yochanan Kohen Gadol. He was a reincarnation of Yochanan Kohen Gadol. Why? Yochanan Kohen Gadol, for his entire life, was righteous, and right at the end he messed up. And he messed up everything from this, all his good work for his entire life. Because at the end of his life, he was rotten. But he had done such good. Therefore, he was reincarnated into a wicked person. He was wicked his entire life, but right at the end, he did teshuvah. The total opposite of Yochanan Kohen Gadol. But from here, Hillel taught us a fascinating concept. That we all come to a state in our life when we say, no, I'm comfortable, I'm good. This is where I wanted to reach in my Judaism. This is where I wanted to, this is what I was hoping to achieve. This is where I wanted to go. I wanted to get to a point where I'll start putting on tefillin, and I won't eat milk and meat mixed together, or I'll eat this level of kosher, whatever it is. Everyone reaches a point where they say, well, that's where I'll reach. I mentioned in my Tuesday night shir about a book that I recently read called Atomic Habits. Atomic Habits is a brilliant book, number one selling book that is around today. And over there, James Clear, he says that what's been proven is not the strides that you take, but to make sure, are you every single day doing one small thing good? And if you are, you're going up. And this is a fascinating, this particular Hasidus, we talk about this all the time. It's not about where you stand on the rung of holiness and how observant you are. It's about if you picture yourself on the escalator is going tip, 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 very, very slowly. But the fact is, if you're going on the escalator that goes downwards, it could be going down ever so slowly, but it's going downwards. If you stay still, you will go lower. If you are stagnant, you always go lower. There's no such thing. By the way, this is a concept in business and everything else. If you reach a point where you say, okay, I'm comfortable, you're only going downhill from there. Every single day, but if you take one step, even as small as if you're going in the up direction, you are growing. You could be on the lowest part, but you're going in the right direction. But you could be right on the top and you stand still. Once you've stood still, you start to head downwards. And the road to down is just down. You just continue going down unless you take the next step up. So what he was saying, what's Hillel saying is, yeah, you may say, I'm a good man. I trust myself. I'm not going to fall into the trap. I'm not going to mess up, or I'm okay. I've reached the point I'm happy with. You know where you're going? You're going down. Don't trust yourself until the day you die, because as we saw by Yochanan Kohen Gadol, he reached a point where he was happy, he was very righteous, very pious, but he stopped growing. And the second he stopped growing, he started to go down. And that's why at the end of his life, where did he end up? Okay.
Rabbi, is it okay to ask a question at this point?
Yes, I finished that point.
Thank you. Because, I'm puzzled by it as well, because I understand the Torah itself is coded and esoteric, and there's a need to, use other sources to interpret. But Hillel, all the other statements in that section seem to be pretty straightforward and plain, explanation. And I just don't understand why that particular concept out of all of them is the one that's couched in such ambiguous, uncertain terms, needing further explanation.
The truth is, it's not. I just took it on a very literal level. to kind of show you the craziness of how it can't be explained that way. Al tamin ba'atzmacha. I think most people on a literal level understand this to mean exactly as I said. In other words, I don't know if I did justice to it by kind of trying to overly simplify it at the beginning. But al tamin, if you look at the words, al tamin ba'atzmacha, do not trust yourself until you die. He's saying it's just what's missing is the word over here. Don't trust yourself. What? Not to fall, not to say that I'm okay. I think what you'll see is with all of these statements, there's the same level of ambiguity. But this one is possibly where it's possibly more than the other ones is that it has maybe it's more what's the right word? It's more possible to misinterpret than the other ones. Possibly that can say that.
Yeah, because
but it's just missing a few words. It's just saying don't trust yourself that you're safe, that you're okay, in order to, in other words, that you can so to speak, put yourself under tests or whatever it is.
Well, if Hillel said, the al tamim ba'atzmachan, stop there, without ad yom motach, motach. If only the first few words were there without the last qualifier, it would still be okay. Like he would say, do not believe just in yourself. But why it's expressed the last three words?
What's your question? Well, I don't understand. So
why is what does ad yom motach add to the principle? If Hillel just said, don't believe only in yourself, don't put yourself at the pedestal, don't make yourself the center of the universe, there's something bigger, that would have been okay.
No. What he's saying is not that don't make yourself the center of the universe. He says, don't become complacent. Don't trust yourself to become complacent until the day you die. What is he saying? Until the day you die, don't complacency. You could say, well, maybe when I reach the age of 70, then I don't have any sex drive, or I don't have any monetary drive. I'm not so, I'm kind of comfortable, right? So he says, the person's like, okay, when I'm young, or I'm going through puberty, or before I get married, or at different stages, what happens if I get $1 million or $1 billion? Then I'll be okay. I don't have to worry about being so careful anymore. Or maybe, when I'm married, then I don't have to be so worried about being not hanging around with people that I shouldn't. So he says, no. Complacency goes not till the age of 70, not till the age of 80, but till the day you die.
Could I share a possible alternative?
He's telling us not to stop going up that treadmill, the escalator, until the day you die. The only day you die, that's when you stop growing. If you think at some point in your life you should stop growing, or you can say, I could put my guard down, that's when the trouble's coming. What's the proof that Rabbi Yochanan, Kohen Gadol, did it till literally the last year of his life? That's when he messed up.
I have a different interpretation I'll just like to share. Is he could have said Kol Yemei Hayecha. He could have used a different expression to say all the days of your life. Why did he choose until the day you die? My thinking is that Ad Yom Matach, the day that you die, is the day that no one knows. It's unpredictable. And because no one knows their final day.
100%. No, you're 100% correct. That because no one knows the day they're going to die, that's why there's another statement we're going to see later on in Pirkei Avot, which says, live every day as though it's your last day, right? Which I think today has become a secular statement by some other person, but it's actually originates from Pirkei Avot. Al tamin ba'atzmacha, and live every day as the last day, because you don't know when you're going to die. Therefore, you should live at that state. 100%. It's the same concept. Yeah. Till the day you die, because you don't know when you're going to die. And therefore, never put your guard down. Don't become complacent every single day, no matter what your age is. You have something to grow and something to learn. And on the other hand, you still have an inclination that could lead you in the wrong directions if you're not vigilant. Okay, let's go on to the next statement. Do not judge a fellow until you reach his place. Now, we had a similar concept in chapter 1, where we had the statement that said, judge everybody, we should judge everybody favorably. So the concept in general is similar. But over there, it's more about how you see people. Always, when you're going to make an initial judgment, always make a positive judgment of somebody. Here it's saying slightly different, where it says, when you see somebody doing something wrong, don't make a judgment. Why? Because you are not in their place. And my topic today was, when can you judge somebody else? And what was the answer? The answer is never. Why? Because you will never be in their place. You will never be in somebody else's shoes. You don't know what trauma they've been through. You don't know what upbringing they have. You don't know what they're suffering. You don't know what type of parents they had, what type of sibling they had, what type of schooling they had. You know nothing about them. And even if you do, even if you are their sibling, then you still don't know their struggle. Every single child in my family, I've got, thank God, a few children, and please God, many more. Every single child is totally different. They were brought up in the same house, with the same parents, with the same financial circumstances, yet every single child is totally different. And therefore, we have no right to judge anybody. Why? Because you will never be in their position. There's a famous story in Sanhedrin, Tractate Sanhedrin of the Gemara, that it says over there that Rav Ashi once had a dream, and he had a vision, Menashe, King Menashe, who was the son of King Chizkiah. King Chizkiah was a very, very special and honored king, and is considered the greatest king of the Jewish people besides for King David. However, King Chizkiah has a son named Menashe, who is an evil and terrible king. He's murderous, but more importantly, he's a major idolater. Okay. So Rav Ashi has a dream, and in the dream, King Menashe, from hundreds of years ago, appears to him in the dream. And King Menashe asks Rav Ashi a question, and he says to Rav Ashi, do you know the answer to this question? And he says, no, I don't know the answer. Please tell me the answer. And he says, no, figure it out yourself. He begs and he begs. He says, okay, I'll tell you the answer. And Rav Ashi, now let me just tell you who Rav Ashi is. Rav Ashi is the author of the Talmud, one of the greatest rabbis, and he wrote the Talmud itself. Okay, Rabbi Yehuda Anasi wrote the Mishna, Rav Ashi, Ravina, and Rav Ashi wrote the Talmud. He doesn't know the answer. He's one of the greatest Jewish scholars in history. He doesn't know the answer. Who has the answer to his question? Menashe, this evil, idolatrous king. So Rav Ashi turns to Menashe and he says, I see that you are a greater Torah scholar than me. Nevertheless, it's well documented in the Tanakh, in the Torah, that you were an evil idolater. How could it be that you served so much idolatry? So Menashe replies to Rav Ashi, if you would have been alive when I was alive, you would have been raising your cloak to catch up to me to serve idolatry. You've been running after. In other words, we know that at the end of the first temple era, the rabbis saw that people, one of the reasons why the first temple was destroyed was because of idolatry. Idolatry, promiscuity. And the rabbis requested that the strong inclination that people have desire to serve idolatry should be erased. And it was. And then they said, well, if that was erased, maybe we could erase the power and the drive for promiscuity, sexuality, in unholy matrimony or relationships. And what happened? People know, but no children were born that year. So the rabbis prayed that drive should be returned, and it was children were born, but promiscuity continued. So Menashe says, you don't know what it was like in the first temple era, where the strength, you'll see, by the way, till the first temple era, idolatry is rampant within the Jewish people. You don't hear of idolatry from that time on. It doesn't exist. But promiscuity continues. But what does he say? You can't judge somebody. You don't understand what the drive, you don't know what that person's going through. Thanks, Noah.
Thank you.
I want to tell you another story in a moment, but I first want to finish. We have several other things to finish before. I want to try to actually finish the Mishnah today. We already spent this already a second week on this Mishnah. The next statement from Hillel was, Al Taimer Davar Shi Efshel Lishomer Shesay for Lishama. Don't say something that you cannot, that is not hearable, that will eventually be hearable. Now, there's different ways of how we can understand this statement. Basically, what it's saying, the simple understanding is, don't say something that is unclear, but it's truthful and it's correct and it's really very smart, but it sounds silly. There's a particular rabbi that I know that is a very well-renowned speaker, but I'm not going to say his name. I'm sure many of you have heard of him. But he often says statements which are, in my opinion, very true, but people are not in a state to understand them. He doesn't explain them, but they can be easily taken out of context. And he says them on purpose in such a way, and he ends up getting himself in a lot of trouble as a result. But if you paid attention and listened to the whole context of his statement, you would see that he was 100% correct, and it makes a lot of sense of what he's saying. But unfortunately, in today's cut and paste era, where we can easily cut and paste people, this rabbi is particularly well known for shooting himself in the foot. He's done it several times in his lifetime. He still happens to be a brilliant rabbi that many respect, and myself included. But here, that's an incredible example of sometimes we say things that sound foolish, but really they're very deep. Hillel is saying, don't fall into that. Don't fall into that. Try to make things as clear as possible. When you're saying them, if you can, sometimes we don't intend. If you don't intend, you don't intend. But try that when you intend, don't intend to say something that sounds silly, that people will, and then they will ask all types of questions. Try to make things as clear as possible in the first place. Another way it's understood by Rabbeinu Yonah is he says, don't do sins that you hide in the private, because eventually it will come known. Or some say, don't say things, secrets, thinking that nobody will reveal them. If you want it to be a secret, make sure that you're saying it to the people that you want to, that you know are properly confidential people. Because most people struggle to keep a secret. Because if you say something that is a secret, it will eventually come out. Ultimately, you don't want people to hear, eventually it will be revealed. It's fascinating. The Friedrich Rebbe, the previous Rebbe, says there are three types of people that are confidential secret givers. You know, they say the famous story of the secret. The man goes, did you hear? The big news. Just do me a favor. Don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. Promise me you won't tell anybody. No, I won't tell anybody. Yeah. Okay. He tells it to that person. That person goes and says, oh, no, do me a favor. Oh, did you hear? But don't tell anybody. Right. And before you know it, everybody knows about it. By the way, in the story of Purim, we're told that Haman wanted to keep the concept of date of when the decree to annihilate the Jews was originally supposed to be a secret, or what the message was supposed to be a secret to annihilate the Jews, but everybody revealed it only to one person, and within a short amount of time, the whole of Shushan knew what the edict was. Right? And we know today's day and age, you can't keep secrets. So the first thing, says the previous Rabbi, there's three types of secret people. Some people that are actually able to keep secrets. He says some people keep a secret, but their body language says that they have a secret to say. They're kind of like, I know information that you don't. You know, what do they say? it's for me to know and you to find out, or something like that. So basically, they let everyone know that they're in the know. Those people are not the best people to tell secrets to, because eventually people might be able to crack the secret. It says there's better people at keeping secrets, and those are people, they say secrets, and they're able to hide the fact that they have a secret. But if you push them, it will come out that there's a secret and they know. And if you tell them, they'll say to you, oh, I knew that already. But they will never reveal the secret. He says the best people is that if you tell them the secret, even if they go and hear the secret from somebody else, the person will not know that they already heard it. That's how good it is telling the secrets. They'll come and they'll hear the secret from somebody else. You would never have known that person knew. You would think that person, it's not like, you find something out and somebody says, what, really? Meantime, you knew, and you're able to act as though, and we're good at doing that with children, but when it comes to adults, sometimes he says, if you're looking for someone to keep a secret, those are the people to keep secrets with. Not that we should be keeping secrets, we know we don't keep secrets, but everyone has what to be private about. Okay, there's a few other opinions of what the statement means, or different levels in the statement. Some say, don't say a part of the Torah I can't grasp, because you should know, Shofar Yishama, every part of the Torah, if you put in the effort, you can actually understand it. Some people say it's talking about rebuke, saying, oh, I'm never going to tell people off because no one ever listens to me. And he says, no. Sometimes it appears that when you tell somebody off, or you tell people, or you discipline people, correct people, it may appear to them as though they haven't listened. But you should know that you're having an impact. It could come out years later. Okay, not that we're encouraging rebuke. It's a discussion that we've had previously in Pirkei Avot, but for another time. Okay, this last statement is something that I actually spoke about in my Tuesday night class, but it's a very powerful statement. Al toimer lichshefne eshne shemeloi tipone. It's a very powerful statement. Don't say that when I have time, I will study, because maybe you will never have time. On Tuesday night, I said the story of Reb Meir Premishlan, that he was looking for a minyan. And the guy came to him and he walked outside and he saw a good Jewish man running to work. He said, come help me make a minyan. The guy says, no, I've got to rush to work. He says, hold on a second. What are you going to rush? You're going to daven, Hashem will give you a blessing. He says, why are you rushing to work? He says, I've got to work to take care of my children, that they should have what to. And please God, I'll take care of my children. My children should be able to learn. And what did Rabbi Premishlan? He said, I saw the same cycle happening. This man never came. He was always too busy to study, to learn. And his children were exactly the same. They never had time to study or learn. He says, you don't know, I know day is busy, we're working all day, we never have time, but if you don't make the time in the middle of the day, half an hour, 12:30 to 1 o'clock to stop your day and say, I'm going to study, you'll never find time. You're always going to be too busy to study. You'll spend your whole life waiting for those moments to find time. But if you don't make time, the time will never find you. You'll always have something to be busy with. Or, as some people explain this, never say, I'm going to, when I'm a better person, I'll work on myself first. And I once met this person who said, I don't have children. You know why I don't have children? Because I'm not in a good enough state that I could be a good parent, that I still have to work on myself before I can be a parent and bring children into the world. I have to make more money till I'm able to support them. But if you're waiting for that to happen, you may never be able to support them. You may never be good enough. By the way, one of the greatest ways to bring children to improve your behavior is to have children, because children will teach you have to be very patient and very disciplined, and you make the money. The blessings come. The same things with Torah study. You will see that your workload will be smaller when you spend those extra moments studying Torah. A task that normally would take you hours can take you half the amount of time. If you're trying to get a business deal, You could sometimes get one business deal. You can try 50,000 times and not get it, or sometimes you could try once and get it. That's the power of the business deal. So he says, do the right thing and God will give the blessings. Don't wait for it to happen. Okay, there was another story I was going to say, but I've gone way over time. So I will, this last statement in particular, free from distracting thought, don't say when I have time I'll study, something that we can talk about in every single category. The lesson is, don't wait. When something, you get an opportunity to do something good, do it. Don't say, oh, I'm too busy, I can't do it now, I have to get other things in order. Most people, as I mentioned also in Tuesday Night Show, most people spend their whole life waiting for that moment when they'll have the opportunity. Their whole moment, they build work, build a career, but at the end they realize they have nothing, and they now too old to have children, or it's not as easy to have children, and now they're going to spend thousands of dollars and issues to get the children. So the point is when you have an opportunity to do something good, take it and don't wait. All right, I'll stop there. If anybody has any questions or comments, please feel free. Anybody has to go, thank you so much for joining.
Rabbi, there's a saying, if you want something done, ask a busy person. I don't know if you've heard that one.
Yes.
And behind it is the concept that someone who's already busy is biased towards action.
Someone who's already busy
is biased, is already programmed, if you like, to prefer action over inaction.
Okay. Well, I definitely agree with the statement is if you want something done, give it to somebody who's busy. But it doesn't mean that someone that's busy as in he's preoccupied. It means it's somebody that gets things done.
That's
if
correct.
You see somebody that's a doer, he'll get things done. He's busy, he's making things happen. Those people will put it in. They're action people. But on the other hand, it's also about sometimes saying, I'm going to stop and I'm going to make sure that right now I study and learn. And you know what? Everything else will be okay.
And maybe another, I'm just linking this to common everyday concepts, like if you're chopping down a forest, every now and then you got to stop and sharpen the axe or you'll get nowhere.
That's right.
And studying, I guess, is like sharpening the axe. It's improving your ability to chop the forest.
Studying is like chopping the axe. It's like sharpening the axe. Yes, 100%. If you don't stop to sharpen the axe, 100%. In other words, if you don't stop and study, what are you working for? You're not going to be able to give anything over to the next generation. You're so much about taking care of their financial needs, but giving them just money, but not giving them a life which has values and teachings and tradition to live with. And what have you given them? So yes, you've got to take care of their financial needs. You've got to take care of your financial needs. But if you don't take care of your spiritual, you don't stop and study, then your life becomes almost like what are you working for? A life which is just for work, right? So it's not just about sharpening the axe. That's taking time off and making sure that you prepare. As a rabbi, we've got to study, because if we don't study, we're not passionate, we're not excited. But as a Jew, if you want to live a meaningful, wholesome life, you've got to constantly be studying. Otherwise, you lose your passion and excitement in Judaism and in life. And it's connected to what we said earlier. Don't stop until the day you die, right? Don't give up, because if you're going to stop and say, no, I'm too busy, I can't, what's going to end up happening? You'll lose that passion and excitement. And you will falter, but that's why every single moment say, no, now is the time to learn. That's why I think it's really important. We have this year. By the way, I'm going to say right now that I don't know if I'll be able to do this year next week. It's probably unlikely, just before Pesach. But nevertheless, right now we are doing it, and hopefully we'll do it again soon. Maybe even during Pesach. We'll see how we go. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thanks, David. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. We'll see you.
See you.
Okay. Bye.